Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 37 of the Chosen One Star Wars podcast here on Game Domain. As always, I'm your host, Jason, joined by my co-host, Captain.
Hey, what's up?
And so, all right, so today we are going to be reviewing episode 7 of the second season of The Mandolorian. Obviously, the critically acclaimed Star Wars show out on Disney Plus right now. It was titled Chapter 15, Let's Go Get Bill Burr. And so that's basically what the whole episode was about, was going to get Bill Burr, and
No,
there was other stuff. There was other stuff. It was
the first 10 minutes. It was the first 5 minutes.
okay. Well, let's go get Bill Burr.
Okay.
Let's go get Bill Burr. And then I kind of loved how they just threw us right into that in the beginning, where it wasn't even like them flying to go get him. Like, it just started with Bill Burr being there, Kara walking up, and then walking over to and seeing Slave One in the distance, and you're like, oh, this is going to be pretty cool right from the start. So that was pretty well done. And I liked how Boba walked out, and he's like, oh my god, I thought you were this other guy. And then Mando walks out. I also like Boba went through the best glow up I think in the Star Wars universe. The armor is perfectly he is perfectly clean. The armor, perfectly green. He repainted it. It looks very clean. So he underwent a little bit of a glow up. But so before we get into our individual thoughts and everything, why don't we just first kind of run through a quick plot breakdown, like we do, when we're reviewing all these episodes.
Can I do this one?
Yes, go.
Yes. Alright, so we start off on a dusty planet, Bill Burr doing some drilling. Okay, so
And making jokes as always.
yeah, well, normally you give like a proper, a well methodical one. I'm going for a bit of a fun with this one. So,
Wait, hold on. I just want to say one thing on Bill Burr before we keep going.
go on.
We're just going to refer to him as Bill Burr because nobody cares what his character's name is. If Mando literally, if Cara Dune pulled up his thing on the registry and said prison inmate whatever, his name is Bill Burr, nobody would care. Everybody would just be like, okay, his name's Bill Burr, and that's fine. Everybody's fine with it because nobody is.
It sounds like a Star Wars name.
Yeah, his real name is Mayfeld or whatever, but I mean, we're just gonna call him Bill Burr. So just continue, just address him as Bill Burr.
So, we start on a planet. Bill Burr is doing some heavy gyrating drilling, okay? He's drilling. Taking apart some old TIE fighters. Run scrapyard. Then a security droid walks up and he's like, mate, this last wants to have a word with you. The last walks up, also known as Cara Dune, who put on a bit of weight in the midriff. I wasn't going to say something in a couple of episodes, but I'm not really doing much ass kicking, so...
Yeah, not as much as usual.
No. She walks up and she's like jiggling all over the spot. And he's like, what do you want? And she's like, come with me. He's like, why? She's like, come with me. Doesn't really explain much. Dude probably thinks he's going to get killed. Walks a bit further. Droid's like, I'm going to tase you in 3 seconds if you don't. That's kind of cool. We walk off to Boba Fett's Slave One. Boba Fett walks out. Bill Burr shits his pants, thinking he's the Mando. And he's like, and then of course from behind, Boba Fett, Mando steps out and then Bill Burr shits his pants again. Cut to them talking about the fact that they need to go and get the coordinates to Moff Gideon's ship, and the only way to do that is by getting to a specific terminal at a specific area. And Bill Burr just happens to know of a planet where they can do that. So bippity boppity boop, they boop on over to the planet. I can't remember the name of the planet.
Okay. Wait, well, hold on. Once you talk about the next point, I have something that a little bit of a criticism that just doesn't make any sense to me. But just talk about the next part, and then I'll interject in a second.
Okay, so the sat inside the Slave One, and he's like, Mando. I can't do a Bill Burr impression, but he's like, hey, Mando! Something like that.
Also, Slave One looks really cool on the inside, how it rotates around. That's very cool.
Slave One rotates. So we all know Slave One lands on its ass when it takes off and sits up. It actually rotates on the interior, which I like the fact that they included.
That's very cool. We've never seen that.
In one of the technical manuals.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Bill Burr's like, hey, Mando. He talks to Mando, and he's like, you want to know the coordinates? Well, you're going to have to come with me, and we're going to have to go into this facility, and we're going to have to do some stuff, and like, hack into a terminal, and, we need to, yeah, so if you want that, I'm coming with you. And he's like, Mando's like, death glaring at him, he's like, right, okay, let's do it. Now, do you want to interject with the thing that you wanted, or do you want to keep going?
Keep going, I'll tell you when. It has something to do with the Imperial officer in that whole scene, so just keep going.
Oh, right, okay, so they land on the planet, and they're like, hey, mate, they're transporting stuff with these, 8 wheeled vehicles. And
Rhydonium or whatever it's called. Which for some reason at the beginning I was thinking that it was the same thing from Solo, but it's not. What's the thing from Solo called?
Isn't that not spice?
It's not spice, but they got it from Kessel. But it was
Yeah,
It's something.
or something like that.
Yeah, but it's not. Why do I feel like the name is very similar to Rhydonium though?
Do you know what? It might be because
I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna look it up. Continue. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, I was gonna do exactly the same. Alright, so planet. And like that's the facility over there. It pans over to a decrepit facility that's hydro powered, which is cool because hydroelectric power is awesome. It's all about gravity and a lot of cool stuff. Go check out hydroelectric power. Big effect on that up. So it's like, right, we need to get in, and they're like looking at these vehicles, and like that's our only way in because we're gonna have to do it. And they're like, listen, right, Bilbo, you need to get us in there. And he's like, no, calm. There's anti-air defenses, all this kind of stuff. Don't fly in. Can't do any of this kind of stuff. You have to go in. None of the other people can go in because it turns out that the console that they've got to get to do the hacking.
Oh, Coaxium was the name. Sorry, the Coaxium. Okay, it ended in an so that's why we were pretty close. We were close enough.
So the terminal that they have to hack it into actually has a face scanning thing, and if you part of any form of something that isn't the Empire, like being a rebel or anything, your DNA is on file. So if it scans you, it'll like, mate, shoot them. So all the rebels around them will shoot. All the Imperials around you will shoot you and get you. So the only way in is with Bill Burr.
Oh, you're about to get to my favorite part of the episode, but continue.
There we go. So the only way in is to hijack one of the trucks, drive in, do all this kind of funky stuff. So to hijack the truck, Mando has to sadly get rid of his Beskar and put it into a bag
that was very funny. It was a carry-on. It was a carry-on. He gave it to Karen.
And then he gives it to Cara Dune, and he's like, mate, Bill Burr's like, hey, Mando! I start going weird. I start doing London when I do that.
Yeah.
Mando, mate, what are you doing? So Mando is now wearing. I'd like to point out, Mando is wearing a really cool outfit. It's like a modification of the Shore Troopers from I almost said Solomon, Rogue One, which, funnily enough, are actually in this, even though they're really designed for beach combat, and this is a forest planet. I think they might have just had a little bit of the stuff left over, but these are ISB transportation officers, which is the Imperial Security Bureau, I do believe, which means that inside the Emperor's throne room, there's just a little bureau in the corner that he walks over and unlocks, and he's like, man, cool. That's a terrible joke right there, but let's move around. So they're driving in, and then on the radio, Bill Burr's like, hey, listen, something's happening. And one of the trucks blows up in the distance, and he's like, what the frack? And then they drive a little bit, and another truck blows up, and they're really confused what's going on, and these trucks are spontaneously combusting. Turns out, the people on the planet are like, mate, we don't like the Empire anymore, so what we're going to do is we're going to Japanese kamikaze these things with some thermal detonators, and we're going to jump on top of the trucks, we're going to pry open the little transport pods with the Rhydonium in, throw the detonators on, and be like, bish, bash, bosh, boom, nobody's getting through, Empire's not getting any of these shipments. So they decide to attack Bill Burr and Mando's transport. So Mando jumps on top, and he's like doing his karate chop, and he realizes really quick that he has to change up his fighting style because the armor he's wearing is a bag of shit, and he loses his shoulder piece because he's normally just taking balls right in the center off his vest.
Yeah.
He changes it up. He starts throwing out some karate chops, starts stabbing some people. He actually takes a stab, and someone's stabbing him with a spear. He grabs it right in front of him like he's some sort of kung pao chicken karate kid guy, and he's sort of taking them all out. And people are trying to blow themselves up with thermal detonators, and he's shooting people. And he realizes that after he shoots a couple of people, Imperial blasters suck.
Yeah.
Which is a continuity error, by the way, because he throws his blaster at a dude, knocking him off the thing, knocking him off the truck, and then because this is the thing that happens, he successfully defends the transport, and they drive in, and all the troopers are like, hey, whoa, you managed to get here and not die, and saluting him and everything, and he's like, yeah, salute. Bill Burr, obviously.
Yeah, Bill Burr. Yeah, he salutes.
So they get in, and the continuity error is when he steps off the truck, Mando has his blaster back in his holster, which is pretty funny. So then they're all saluting, high-fiving, hugging.
I thought that was pretty cool to kind of see the Imperial troops come together. We've seen that with the Rebels, obviously, the big rooms where they're all in Rogue One or whatever when they blow up the Death Star or whatever. But it's kind of cool to see that aspect from the Empire, from the Imperial troops as well.
Yes, they're not just, hey, let's kill everyone.
Yes. Yes.
Which is pretty cool. I did like that. And you
Yeah.
gotta remember, not everybody in the Empire is just
Yes.
is like evil. They're just have a force into it.
Yes.
And then Bilbo's like, right, Mando, I've got this little, I've got this small tube that I'm going to stick into that terminal.
Okay, this is where I have my discrepancy. So can I just interrupt for a second? Now, you have the ability to access data onto a location of Moff Gideon's cruiser, right? A very serious information to locate Moff Gideon at any time. Why in the world is this terminal in the corner of the lunchroom of the base?
It's in the officer's mess, yeah.
But
it's in the corner.
I don't understand why. Think about it like this. Think about like this is kind of what it's like. Let's just say like in like at some university, right, at some college, in the corner of the mess hall, right, is like a computer that if you scan your face at, you have like every single like the address and like information of like every single person who goes to that school, like who goes to that college. Like it's like that equivalent. Like you have all that personal information and you just go into some terminal in a mess hall into the corner. Like how can you access like so when Darth Vader was alive, right? Could you locate the Super Star Destroyer, like, in that terminal? So any stormtrooper could be like, I wonder where Darth Vader is today. And also, I want a quick bite to eat. So he goes, gets a sandwich, and then goes to the terminal. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And also, you talked about this a little bit beforehand. My favorite part in the entire episode was and just one of the best little comedy lines ever that only really kind of like diehard Star Wars fans will understand and get, is when Bill Burr and Mando, they were like looking around to like see who could go in, and Cara Dune's like, I have Rebel, and Bill Burr's like, no, she has Rebel, like whatever, they'll scan her and they'll all shoot us. And then Fennec was like, yeah, I'm wanted by the ISP. and then he goes Fett, and Fett goes, let's just say they might recognize my face. That was absolutely hilarious. I thought that was one of the best comedy lines of the whole show so far, and I really appreciated that little joke. So that's what I wanted to say about that part. And now you can continue with the bullshit, ridiculous terminal that shouldn't exist in the corner of the mess hall.
No, I think this is why the terminal exists in the corner. If you look at the size of that building, not that big, okay? It's literally a garage where you can drive in, and probably a small storage area, and maybe one office, okay? But it's a secret ISB facility, so that means all terminals there have to have a connection to some sort of secret network. But if you think about it, all computers in the Star Wars universe always seem to be able to access whatever they want. Like, you could be in a cantina, and if you've got the right data rod or security stick or, I don't know, Darth Vader's dildo, you can always access whatever you need to from any terminal. So I think it's the combination of the secret facility that they're at, the ISB data rods from the uniforms that they stole, and the fact that it's the officers' mess, which is most people there would also be ISB officers, which are like the secret kind of Gestapo walk in, we take you out in the middle of the night and nobody knows what happened to you kind of thing. So it's not the fact that the terminal's just in the mess. I think it's the fact that because it's an ISB facility, he could have walked into the bathroom. If the bathroom had a terminal, he probably could have stuck his data rod in and got the information.
Okay.
That's what I think is the thing.
It makes sense. So, I just still on the surface, it was a little bit like, really? Like, is this is kind of where you find Moff Gideon? But yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they didn't give him like a pinpointed location.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, the story so far, that's all happened. What happens is Bill Burr, he's like, hey, Mando, and he looks like, there's a terminal over there. I'm gonna go in because it scans my face. I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna stick my dildo into this thing, I'm gonna go, okay? But he turns around, he walks in, but who does he see? Well, he sees a former commanding officer, and he's like,
conveniently, out of the hundreds and maybe thousands of commanding officers in the Imperial Army, the one who happened to be sitting in there was the one who was his commanding officer.
So, he's like, Mando, I can't do it. Mando, I can't do it. And Mando's like, get the fuck in there right now, or I'll snap you in half. He's like, Mando, hey, Mando.
Hey, Mando.
I can't do it. And he's like, right, give me that, you wuss. So he takes the dildo off him, and he walks to the thing, and he puts it in, and it scans his helmet because he hasn't taken his helmet off. And it's like, you have 5 seconds to live before this terminal explodes and takes everybody in the facility with it, because you're obviously not supposed to be on this terminal. And he's like, alright, okay, so he takes his helmet off and scans his face, which is weird, because you think his profile would be in the ISB data.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. I just didn't understand how like both of their faces were scanned and passed in, like as if anybody could just walk in there. I mean,
this is the thing. Maybe because Mando's a foundling, from the time that he passed the whole being a foundling test, he's always had a helmet on.
Yeah.
In which case, they probably don't have a facial recognition scan because
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is that how would they not have every single Imperial trooper face scanned in there, and then how could like both of them who are not Imperial troopers just get right through that?
Well, that's the thing. Bill Burr still is an Imperial trooper.
No, I know Bill Burr is, but Mando, I don't really know how Mando got through that.
Maybe it just scans a person. And if it doesn't recognise that they're on, like, the Imperial hit list, it's like, you must be Imperial then. Which is a terrible way to do security.
Okay. Mm.
Yeah, they should... It's a filler episode, episode 7, when there's only one episode.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. So, Mando takes his helmet off, it scans his face, and the dude sitting in the corner who was Bill Burr's other commanding officer before, is like, he's being really weird over there. What's going on? Got a nice ass. What's going on? So he like scans, he gets there, and he's like, "Hey, trooper!" And the guy's like, "Oh, and by the way, I'd like to point out this is the second officer in the entire Star Trek unit. Star Trek.
Oh my! Hold on. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll be ending the. I'm just kidding.
This is the only other officer in the history of Star Wars that is American.
Really?
Let that sink in for a moment.
Oh my! Oh, wait a second, and you are correct. Wow.
The reason that is because America thinks they fucking win at everything. Let me just point this out. America's never won a war.
Wait, so that's incredibly interesting. I'm very glad you brought that up. Now,
in episode 5.
okay, I was about to say it's one of the. Yes.
He's in that. He says like 2 words. He's American. That's it.
But hold on, I'm trying to think of. See, because you know how like Carrie Fisher, some line she says as Leia in like A New Hope makes her sound British, but she's not. I'm wondering. I'm wondering if there's some other Imperial officers who kind of like, because I feel like. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I know in episodes. I'm just trying to think of ones that I can think in my head are very, very British. The one who. In episode 5, you know when they're down on Hoth, and then the one gets choked out, and the guy who steps in, and then he's still... General Veers is... Isn't General Veers the one who gets force choked, or is he not?
No, General Veers is the guy who blows up the...
Oh, yeah, okay. So now, I'm not... Yes, I'm not talking about Veers. I'm talking about the guy who was on the Star Destroyer. Now, if you saw his face, you'd recognize him, and I can picture his face in my head right now. He's the guy who in episode 6 says, who in Return of the Jedi, when Shuttle Tydirian is flying by, when Luke and Han or whatever, and they're going to Endor, he's the one who's talking to Vader, and he says, "Shall we let him in?" Like their code works out. Now, he might have been American, but kind of just sounded British because of how he was talking. But I don't know. He also may have been British. That's the only one I could think of that sounded somewhat maybe like they wouldn't actually be British. But thinking back on it now, that is kind of crazy how they really are all British. And obviously Tarkin being the main one.
Yeah, well, I mean, General Veers was British. He was born in London.
Now, who was the other American one?
I don't know. He was just like a side character.
Really? Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's
right.
kind of weird. I actually kind of...
This Imperial officer was incredibly odd and creepy and weird. Like, this guy was freaky.
Well,
like,
there was another guy who's a side character who was born in Ireland. I've like pulled up the entire Imperial cast. Deep Roy, which is the guy who played all of the I know we're on a massive tangent right here, but played all the Oompa Loompas in the most recent Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He's in episode 5.
Alright, let's keep. We think we should before we keep going. Let's finish the plot. We'll talk about this in another. We'll have an hour-long special on all of the Imperial officers.
So, alright, so back to the thing. So the guy's like, what are you doing up there? And then Bill Burr walks in, and he's like, he can't hear you.
Still known as Bill Burr.
Yeah, Bill Burr strides in, and he's like, he can't hear you.
He's like, hey man, though, he can't hear you. He can't hear you.
But apparently they call Mando Brown Eyes.
Yes.
Mando has his helmet off at this point, which is good, because now Bill Burr's like, I know what you look like. He's trying to get him to take the helmet off.
The whole episode.
So he's like, oh yeah, no, Mando here, he calls him Brown Eyes. So Brown Eyes is like, he's like, Brown Eyes is deaf. Stuff's gonna happen, you know, something blew out, he's deaf. So the Imperial officer's like, let's you know, he starts shouting and stuff. So he's like, let's have a drink. And then my favorite part of the entire episode is like, it's like 2 seconds, right? But my favorite part. So they sit down at the table, and the officer's like, what should we drink to? Let's not do the stupid stuff like drink to the Empire or the Emperor. But what should we drink to? And then a really cool like callback to Battlefront 2 is Bill Burr's like, let's drink for Operation Cinder. And for those not familiar, Operation Cinder is where the Empire decimated every like planet they possibly could with giant orbital laser cannons. Go watch some of the scenes from. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So Bill Burr's like, yeah, I was in Operation Cinder. You know, I was with my platoon on the planet and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, all right, yeah. He's like, you were in charge, yeah. You killed all of my men, and it cuts to Mando just sat there looking really uncomfortable. And he looks over at Bill Burr, and hopefully whoever's editing this can get the shot right, the little clip right now. But Mando just goes and shakes his head ever so gently while looking at Bill Burr, and it's just like, you know what's going to happen. And then Bill Burr, you know, gradually gets more angry, and he just whips out his gun
and just shoots him, and he flies back. And the best is the other stormtroopers just look at him like, what the fuck just happened?
He rocks back on his chair,
yeah,
and then he's just kind of sat in that reclined position, this Bill Burr, and he like looks over at the shore trooper, and he's looking at him, and
he's it's that. Yep. Oh my god, that was amazing, and I love how there was. Think about the scenes. If we're talking about typical Star Wars plot convenience that nobody cares about, just because the episode was done so well, think about the sheer like massive amount of stormtroopers who were in that facility. And then yet when they shoot the officer, only like 10 of them come after them. I mean, yeah, that's just think about like the scene of them coming in and there's hundreds of troopers screaming and cheering. And then just the instant that they go the officer, all of a sudden there's 10 people in the entire building who go and chase them after them. So yeah, and then we
get to see how terrible the stormtroopers actually are shooting, because Mando, this room, the study is like no bigger than a small garage. So all these stormtroopers are running, shooting at him and just missing him, and Mando and Bill Burr just stood there calmly shooting back, and it's like, and then the escape by climbing up to the roof, which is really cool because Fennec and Cara Dune are like popping them off with sniper rifles and like taking out all the air defenses, and then I thought they were going to potentially kill Bill Burr with this, because they were like, their escape plan was Boba was going to come down and pick them up in Slave One, and it's like Mando's running, jumps onto the thing. There is a really cool moment before that where Bill Burr's like, he gives Mando his helmet, he's like, I never saw your face, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I was like, that's pretty sweet. So they're on the roof, they're running. Cara Dune, Fennec sniping people. It's like a scene from Call of Duty. It's great. Slave One lands. Mando jumps in, and then Bill, you think, oh my god, they're going to shoot Bill Burr in the back. They don't. Bill Burr, you know, gets on as well. They're flying away. He's like, give me that cycle rifle. And because, you know, Bill Burr was an Imperial sniper, he's like, bang, and blows up the facility with a single shot to this Rhydonium that was on the back of the truck. And then, you know, to wrap up because it's the end of the episode, to wrap up the episode, they like land on the thing, and Cara Dune's talking to Mando, who's back in his best car, and he's like, oh, it's a shame Bill Burr died. Sure, know that, isn't it? Oh, I mean,
yeah, that was funny.
Bill Burr, blow the smithereens, and I was like, what, are they going to shoot Bill Burr again? And it's like, no, it's like, all right, you know, Bill Burr gets to live out his life on this planet doing, you know, he's no longer an Imperial. He's technically a rebel now, which is really cool. So who knows? Bill Burr might come back as a rebel. That'd be pretty cool. And then as they're flying away, it cuts to, you know, Moff Gideon on his thing, feeling his ass up under his cape and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, Moff Gideon. Someone runs. He's like, Moff Gideon, you've got to see this. And then she like types on the keyboard, and this episode of Pornhub comes up. She's like, oh shit. No, sorry, no. So, and then it's Mando, and he's like, you've taken something from me.
Oh my god, this was the greatest fucking thing I've ever seen.
Ultimate dad moment.
Well, it was the same exact. It was a reenactment of what Moff Gideon said to him at the end of episode 7 or at the beginning of episode 8 of last season.
I think so.
Do you remember? It was word for word, and it was like, you have something I want. He means more to me than you could. It was just, oh my god, it was so amazing. I absolutely loved that. That scene was incredible, and you're right, it was the ultimate dad moment. And he's like, it means more to me than you will ever know. Oh my god, it was amazing. I was kind of disappointed we just didn't see like any Baby Yoda in this episode, but I also think that it was good because it kind of showed how the whole focus of the show is not necessarily revolving around Baby Yoda. And I just think after all the hype that surrounded Baby Yoda and like the shock of like him being in it last season, I think this season one of the best things that they've done overall is really not force any Baby Yoda down our throats. Like, there's still the moments where you're like, oh my god, that's so adorable. And obviously the whole plot is kind of revolving around him. But, I mean, the majority of the show is really not about him, honestly. I mean, it's about kind of all these other characters, and it's mainly about this character arc and this journey of Mando, and obviously his relationship with with Grogu. But it's not all like, oh my god, here's Grogu. Look, he can move a rock. Oh, look, he does the Force right here. It's not really all about that, and I'm still. That's one of the reasons why this show is liked by so many people, is that they didn't really force that down our throats as much as a lot of people thought they would when we first got a glimpse of Grogu and all the hype that surrounded his being or whatever. So I kind of, in a way, I kind of liked that he wasn't in this episode. I thought that was kind of cool, just to kind of like then set up for what's going to be the most epic dad moment in the history of the universe, to cap off the season next week. But yeah, I mean, so that pretty much does it for the plot wrap up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it cuts on, the ultimate dad moment. That's it. Boom,
it's just, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I love that moment at the end of every episode, but I also hate it because I want more. But then it's just the ba-dum. It's just so epic just to end every episode.
See, I'm always watching the end because I'm thinking, right, it's a Disney thing. There's always going to be like
yeah, there's always going to be something.
And then nothing happens.
Yeah, then nothing happens.
There's like no, I like what they've done normally if you watch like TV show, and it's pretty much every TV show. It's not country oriented, but if you watch any TV show anywhere, it's like next week on whatever. If it's like a climactic finish it with, it's like next week on Coronation Street, Phil Mitchell gets shot in the face, or next week on NCIS, this person, So it's, I like how they haven't done that with this. So we're always like, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah, I mean, next week is going to be absolutely just incredible. I mean, I don't really have any specific thoughts on this episode. I just kind of got my couple thoughts out of the way right there. So why don't we just take a few minutes to kind of predict what we think is going to happen going into next episode, how they're going to wrap up. Why don't you do your wizardry and predict what you think is going to happen to wrap up the season? Why don't you want to go first and just kind of not even make a prediction, just explain word for word exactly what's going to happen next week, because we all know it's just going to end up coming true if you say it.
Ooh, I wonder if I can do it in as few words as possible.
Oh, like you did last week? Okay. So, wait, what was your prediction last week? I forgot.
I can't remember either.
Mine was let's get Bill Burr. So I think that it worked out. I'm pretty sure that's what we did this episode.
I know that from last week I said that they would be, in this episode, getting the location of where Baby Yoda is, which they did. I don't know if I said it would be on a forest planet, or I don't know if I know when Ahsoka was before the Ahsoka episode. I know for that one I said she's going to be on a forest planet, and I was right.
Yes. So where do we think Moff's going to be?
Moff's going to be in space.
Oh well, yeah, that is true. Are we just gonna have Slave One go straight to the Star Destroyer?
Okay, so
what if Bulba die? I don't want Bulba to die.
Shoot, bang, bang.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's not going to die.
You don't think he's gonna die?
No. See, this is what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to go to Bo-Katan because she wants the dog saber, doesn't she? And she's got that shit. And she said in that episode that she was, we've got all these weapons for the Mandalorian, so we might get a full-on Mando assault because they can't turn up in the Slave One against that ship. Even though that in like the Imperial Navy is a tiny ship, it's still a pretty decently heavily armored, fire-powered ship. Plus, it's got dark troopers on board, and I don't want to go fight no dark troopers. That was also something I predicted. I'm amazing, but I think an assault with Slave One, the ship that both Khan has, and maybe a base-oriented combat fight with Mando and like a bunch of people jetpacking around like they did in the Clone Wars. That's pretty cool to like get on. And then it's 40 minutes that they've got to cover, and I don't want to have like the first 10 minutes as a setup for them going. I want like.
You want straight. You like kind of how this episode was not us flying in to go get Bill Burr. It was Bill Burr's right there. And they're just already there at the planet. Like you kind of want it to be them just flying into the Star Destroyer immediately. Like them just knowing where they are and just starting. I want this episode to. I hope it's like an hour long too. Yeah, that is true. I hope it's like an hour long. That would be amazing.
If it's an hour long, then I'm perfectly fine with the 10-minute thing of like, let's go get the
Yeah, but if it's going to be 35, 45 minutes, we need straight into the action.
Yeah, you can't dick around. So, I think, I'll just give a basic one, because if I start getting too detailed, people are going to find me and burn me alive as a witch. So, I think we'll have a quick little...
Disney is going to be the one to find you.
Disney's going to get you and like, listen, what's going to happen next episode? We haven't written it yet. What's going to happen? And that's how I'll become the best friend of Dave Filoni. Oh God, I hope. Right, so we start off getting the band. There'll be like a 5-second thing of we've got the band. This is where we need to go. There'll be a little fanning thing. It's like maybe they'll do like a flyby, or maybe Boba will do what he did like in episode 5, and he'll cut all the power and stuff and drift, and like, right, we're going to scan the ship. So we need some way of knowing what's going to be in that ship, what kind of ship it is, what class of ship it is, its layout, all that kind of stuff. We need a map. So if we already have a map or all this kind of stuff, we'll be fine. Then there will be an assault on the ship, which will most likely lead to dark troopers being let out, Boba and all that kind of stuff doing the shots. Fennec might die, most likely to get hit. I hope at some point.
I hope Boba doesn't.
I hope Boba doesn't die, but I hope at some point they call in the fat Asian dude in the X-Wing.
Just for fun.
Just do a strafing run. He's going to do a strafing run and he's going to disappear. Like, that's all I'm doing. I'm off back to my convenience store. See you in a bit. Because he's from Tim's Convenience, which is really cool. So, hopefully he turns up, but I doubt it. But there's going to be an assault. We're going to be fighting through the ship. Moff Gideon's going to be holding the bridge, most likely with some dark troopers. We're either going to see Specky Four Eyes again, and I call him Specky Four Eyes because I can't remember his name, Doctor, who was experimenting on Baby Yoda. Mando, if he's on the ship, Mando will probably shoot him. And just go, no, just shoot him anyway. Mando knows you've hurt his kid, now you're going to die.
Yes.
Not only have you blown up his house, you've taken his
kid. Yeah. Oh, Specky 2. Oh, you mean the doctor guy. I was wondering.
Yeah, the doctor guy.
What do you call him? What do you call him? Specky 2 Eyes? What?
Specky 4 Eyes.
Oh, Specky. Yeah.
Even though the sunglasses.
Yeah.
They're not actual glasses.
Oh my God.
I can't remember his name, so I have to go. I can't call him glasses, man.
Yeah, we could just call him Bill. We could just call him Bill Burr. We'll just call him Bill Burr.
No, yeah. So,
everybody's Bill Burr.
Mando's probably going to shoot him in the head. Then, it's most if Bo-Katan has turned up, and hey, maybe Ahsoka, who knows? But if Bill Burr has turned up, if Bo-Katan has turned up, I'm thinking it's a fight with the Darksaber. But it most likely will be doors open, Moff Gideon turns around, Mando like bullseyes some dark troopers in the face, and then Moff Gideon's going to be like, so I see that you've turned, and he'll be starting monologuing like all great bad guys do, and Mando will shoot him.
That would be amazing.
Gun, put it in a holster, set the ship to implode.
Take the Darksaber. Take the Darksaber, place it in Baby Yoda. No, you know what would be... Okay, wait, hold on. I'm gonna say my prediction when you're done here. That'd be pretty cool. Well, if he kills Gideon, then it is rightfully his. So.
That is true.
So now, I mean, who knows? Watch Bo-Katan show up at the same time, because Bo-Katan's also after Gideon too. We know that, so that'd be pretty cool. Now, all right, I'm just gonna give my joke prediction first, and then my real prediction. So basically, what I think is gonna happen is everything that you said, right? And it's gonna end up being a standoff between Mando and Moff Gideon, right? Boba and Fennec and whatever, they're all gonna be. Also, I don't know where Apollo Creed is. I don't know why he didn't go with them. Where Grief Karga didn't, I guess. But I don't even know why he wasn't involved in the conversation. I was a little confused about that. Maybe he could have said, "Oh, I'm going to stay here," but I don't know why he wasn't there. But whatever. So he what was this? Oh, so Mando's going to just be in a standoff there with Moff Gideon, and Grogu's just going to be off in the back somewhere, like going to be like getting injected stuff on by Specky Four Eyes. And then all of a sudden, like you hear like a vroom and like a scream, and you just see like in the background, like out of a little room in the back, like a head just kind of like roll down, and it's Specky Four Eyes. And then Baby Yoda Grogu just walks out with the Darksaber in hand. Like somehow he just got his hand on it. He stole it off Moff Gideon. And then Gideon's like, "Don't you play with that. Don't you play with that." And Grogu just like uses the Force and like grabs him and just pulls him towards him and just stabs him through the chest. Kind of like Kylo. You know in that scene in the beginning of Rise of Skywalker when Kylo's just killing everybody on Mustafar and he just force pulling guys into him and just destroying them with his lightsaber? That's what Grogu's going to do, right? And then Grogu's going to slight him with the Darksaber, and then Mando's gonna be like, "Oh my God, Grogu! I can't believe! Oh my God, Grogu! You killed him! I am so happy to see you!" And then Grogu, he's just gonna turn his face, and he's gonna have yellow Sith eyes, and he's gonna be wearing a little hood all of a sudden, and then he's just gonna take a swing at Mando with the Darksaber, and then they're gonna start fighting. But that's the Fantasyland Darth Grogu prediction. But my actual prediction is going to be, obviously they get to Moff Gideon's ship. There's just going to be a ton of just crazy action on Moff Gideon's ship. I also wouldn't be surprised if like Moff Gideon is going to a location and all this stuff kind of happens like on a planet or at a location. I think that'd be better than just kind of all going down on a Star Destroyer. I do think that Boba and Fennec might die at some point. Cara won't die. Obviously Mando won't die. I was a little kind of upset that Bill Burr wasn't coming with them. I thought that they'd bring him along. I don't know why they kind of just left him there, but I was a little upset that they kind of left him there. But I mean, yeah, I don't really have much specific predictions, obviously, other than obviously we know. I mean, I guess Moff Gideon's going to just have to die at the end of this thing. I think he's a really good villain. It's going to be kind of tough to see him go, but I mean, he's just going to have to die. And then, like, who's going to be the one to kill him? Is it going to be Mando? Is it going to be Grogu? Is it going to be Bo-Katan? Is it going to be Boba Fett? I mean, it won't be Boba, but I mean, who really knows who's going to? Boba's kind of just like a taxi driver at this point, and then he just looks cool when he's walking out of Slave Mom with his gun. But I don't really know. I don't really have any specific real predictions as to how it's going to go down. I just kind of know right now we're at one point, and I think I know pretty well the point that we're trying to get to. I just don't know how they're going to get there. I think the point that we're trying to get to is obviously Mando is reunited with Grogu. Mando and Cara will definitely survive. You seem to think Bulba is going to survive, and then Fennec may die. I kind of think Fennec dying might be almost a guarantee, but then again, I also think that if Bulba lives, she lives, and they kind of just go off like on their own little whatever. They kind of just go off as their own team. So I guess maybe they will all survive.
Well, if they don't die, they'll get injured.
Yeah, somehow.
It's got to be kind of one of those things. You see them in games all the time. It's like a group of 7 are running towards one big bad guy, but they've got to get through all these things, and slowly they get hurt or injured, and it comes down to the main character versus main villain.
Yeah.
It's going to be something like that.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I think it'll be. And I mean, yeah. I mean, that's really all that's really all I have to say. Captain, is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up here?
Yeah. What I want to say is I want to see the doors open to the bridge where Moff Gideon is, and he's like, "What the hell?" And then he like peers over the table, and Baby Yoda moonwalks in and stabs him with the Darksaber. Like, as soon as she mentioned, the last episode 9 with what's his face, emo guy. I forgot his name. I've actually forgotten one of the bad guys' names from the Star Wars movie. That's how terrible they are. But yeah, the thing at the beginning. Oh, Kylo Ren. That's it.
Oh my god.
Kylo Ren moonwalks into a guy and kills him. So I want to see that. And then Baby Yoda turn. No, I don't want to see Baby Yoda turn around when Mando walks in. It's like, what have you done? I want to see his head turn 180 degrees like The Exorcist. He fires 2 giant laser beams out of his eyes, ricochet off Mando's Beskar armor, rip a giant hole in the bridge, throw him out into space, and then all the stars around him form the Emperor, and he takes him and flies away. And then Bill Burr turns up in space taxi, and he's like, Mando, it's like, hey Mando, and I told you this was going to happen, and then the entire universe implodes and becomes something of a rich, creamy soup.
That'd be pretty epic. That'd be pretty epic. I mean, yeah, and on that bombshell, that's the episode. So next week we're gonna have a review for you guys of what is most likely going to be the most epic piece of TV on the face of the planet. I don't really watch very many TV shows to the point where I avidly follow them when they come out every week. So this is really, for me, this is the TV show that I'm watching and that I'm always watching. And I just think that it's going to be a little sad for the season to end. I just feel like it was like yesterday, right? It was 7 weeks ago, and it feels like yesterday, where we were just hyped to see what was to come for this series and what was going to happen in season 2. And I just remember seeing Mando and Baby Yoda again, kind of in that first episode, just kind of walking through that like dark, eerie scene and being like, there they are. Here we go. We're back again, ready for the ride. And the ride is sadly almost over. But you know, we'll hopefully have a season 3, and we'll find baby Luke Skywalker somewhere. I'm just kidding. We might actually end up finding young Luke Skywalker somewhere, but please, if we can do something where we just hear Mark Hamill's voice but don't see anything of him, I'm fine with that. That I'm perfectly fine with. Maybe last point before we wrap up, let's just like take Ewan McGregor, not even Obi-Wan, just take Ewan McGregor and just rise him from the grave. Just have some sort of scene where he's just rising from like out in space where the Death Star just destroyed. Just have Force Ghost Ewan McGregor just there, and he just like all of a sudden just becomes back to like reality, and then he's starting the new Jedi Order, and that's who Mando brings it to him. That would work out perfectly fine. We just can't have young Luke Skywalker, but just give us Ewan McGregor. Just make Ewan McGregor be another character. He doesn't even need to be Obi-Wan. Just have him somewhere in here.
What we can have is we can have middle-aged Luke Skywalker being like, I can't train Baby Yoda. Like, it'd be really cool to see like Mando jump between different Jedi that are left. Like, can you train, Grogu in? Like, I can't. And then the final one he gets to is like, Luke when he's on that planet, and he's like, listen, Luke. You did all this cool Jedi stuff. You cut your dad's hand off. You stabbed an old man. In fact, a lot of the stuff you did were kind of hate crimes, Luke. But I mean, can you train this mini Yoda? And he'll be like, no. And then that'll be like get Mark Hamill to play it. And then he's like, can you do it? And he's like, no. And then that's it.
Yeah, well, you could make Mark Hamill try to look 20-something, because what you got to think about.
You don't have to do that though, do you?
Well, hold on. What you got to think about is that. In The Last Jedi, whatever the fuck, the bombshell of a movie, I don't even want to talk about, but in The Last Jedi, the flashback scene, right? Now, the flashback scene, Kylo was probably, like, what? How old is he when he, like, went to... 15, maybe? And he's, like, 30. Because he was born right after The Force Awakens. I mean, what do you mean right after The Force Awakens? He was born right after Return of the Jedi, because he's, like, 30, I think, in the Force Awakens, in his early 30s.
Late 20s, early 30s.
So he was born kind of right after. So now that is like, I mean, then Mando takes place 5 years after Jedi. Now, they made Mark Hamill look young enough for that to be a portrayal of him wait a second. See, this is when the aging shit in Star Wars is very odd. Luke Skywalker would have been 23 at the end of Return of the Jedi, right? 23 at the end of Return of the Jedi. 30 years later, he was only 53 in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi when we saw, all grayed out Mark Hamill. And now that means that I mean, in this show, he'd really only be 30. So I don't know how we're gonna get Mark Hamill to age 30.
No. All you got to do is like, Mark, can you do a bit of exercise for us? Because
He's not gonna do that. He's not gonna do that. We know that.
Bit budget, but we've got, can you at least, try and slim down a little bit, and then all you've got to do is dye his hair a little bit. You could, right?
Yeah, that is true. Well, like they did for that flashback, like exactly like they did for that flashback.
Yeah, but say you bring Mark Hamill in for season 3, all you've got to do is set season 3 a couple of years in the future. That way, canonically, Luke Skywalker's getting close to his 40s, which, in your 40s, you start getting, mid-30s, early 40s, some people, and especially, Luke Skywalker, the weight of the universe on his shoulders, would be greying and would be getting his, his wrinkles in. I'm greying now, and I've been greying since I was 18. I'm 26. So, Mark Hamill, all you got to do, dye his hair a little bit, so he's got to still keep some of his greys, but he's still got a lot of his, dark colour in it. Slim him down, and you can, even if he doesn't slim down enough, you can hide it under robes, which is kind of what they did in, when he was the older version of himself. And he's still kind of thin a little bit, and then just be like, maybe they bump into each other on a planet, and he doesn't reveal that he's Luke Skywalker because he's doing his, hunting for the Jedi stuff, or maybe he takes him to the Jedi Temple that, Luke sets up, and he's like, can you train Grogu? And he's like, I sense much fear, or...
Everybody sense fear in him.
Yeah, but that would be an easy way of getting Mark Hamill into it, I think.
Yeah. All right, but that's all stuff that we'll have for a few episodes in the future when we predict season 3. So thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Thank you for sticking with us through this entire Mandalorian season 2. And next week's going to be the last ride, final wrap up of the last episode. And yeah, we're looking forward to reviewing that episode and the whole season with you guys next week. And also, we were just discussing this a little bit before the show. Obviously, there was major news back on Thursday. Disney just announced basically everything in the universe that's happening within the next couple of years for Star Wars. I think it was a total of 10 shows and or movies, whatever it then ended up being. All that stuff was announced. It's a lot of stuff to digest, so we're going to have to look into it and do some research. We're probably going to be bringing you guys like a 2-episode, like a 2-parter breakdown of a lot of those TV shows. We'll somehow split it up. We'll probably split it up by one episode being live action stuff, then the other episode being cartoons and whatever, animated. So we'll set that up, and that'll likely be the 2 weeks following next week's review of Mandalorian season 2, episode 8. And yeah, so we'll see you guys for that, and yeah, see you next week.